Fiancé visa application. They include how to submit a petition with the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service, how to apply or submit what's known Good afternoon, and welcome back. We do apologize. We just experienced a bit of intermittent power, and Good afternoon and welcome back again. So apologies for those who saw the feed go out earlier. We are having a bit of power issues, but we're going to try to continue this event. So for anyone who knows friends or family that might be tuned in, feel free to tell them that we are back up and streaming. Just a reminder for folks, we're talking K1 fiancé visas today. There will be links at the bottom of this feed that will point you to various information related to applying for a K1 fiancé visa. Those links include how to submit a petition with the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service, how to apply or submit a SEAC for the visa, how to schedule the visa interview, how to schedule the medical exam, and general visa and travel information found on travel.state.gov. I want to remind folks that joining me here today are my colleagues, Vice Consul Michelle and NIV Chief David. Michelle, let's jump right in. And can you please tell us who is generally qualified for a K1 fiancé visa?
Okay, so the K1 fiancé visa is for foreign citizens who are engaged to a U.S. citizen. It enables them to travel to the United States to marry their U.S. citizen fiancé within 90 days of arrival.
Okay, and does it matter where the wedding takes place?
It does matter where the wedding takes place. I mean, we want the K1 fiancé to marry the U.S. citizen in the United States upon arrival. Of course, what many fiancé applicants do is that they have maybe a civil ceremony in the United States, and then they may return to Jamaica for a larger ceremony.
That makes a lot of sense. Do they need to get married in the same state where they're residing, or the wedding ceremony can take place anywhere in the United States?
The wedding can be anywhere in the United States.
Okay. And what are the fees associated with applying for the visa class?
So there is a fee for the petition itself, which is submitted by the U.S. citizen sponsor, that half of the couple, and that fee is $675, and that's paid to the U.S. Citizen and Immigration Services, Citizenship and Immigration Services, or USIS. But then later on, when the K1 fiancé goes to proceed with the application and submit that application, that fee is $265 US per person. So if it's the K1 person and then they have maybe a child who's going with them, it would be $265 per person.
And how old can the children be that are listed on a petition?
Okay, so the children have to be under 21 years to go.
Okay, and that's 21 at the time of travel, or at the time of the interview?
At the time of travel.
Okay.
They have to be under 21 when they travel.
Thank you very much. Mm-hmm. Is there a limit to the amount of kids that can be listed?
Well, the children, there's not a numerical limit on the number of children that can be listed, but the children do need to be children of the K1 fiancé.
Okay. And the reason I mentioned that is it is important that when the application is made, that all derivatives, which is another word used for dependents of the person applying for the immigrant visa, be listed at the time of the application, because it's not necessarily going to work if an amendment has to be made later, or if suddenly a change in thinking occurs after the interview already takes place of who will be accompanying during the immigrant visa process. Now, what is the, yes, please.
Sorry. So the children, ideally, they need to be listed on the petition as well as the application.
Oh, thank you very much.
Right.
And what is the general wait time between submitting a petition and being able to go to the U.S.?
Right. So, so the petition itself is approved by USCIS, and so those petitions are typically valid for 4 months. So once the petition is approved, then we go ahead and process that expeditiously. We don't have a backlog right now, which is good news. And then, of course, once the application is once the interview is concluded and they've done their medical exam, they have a 6-month validity on the visa, and then they have to marry within 90 days. So lots of time frames there.
So 6 months from the visa issuance, the person does need to find themselves in the United States.
It's 6 months from their medical appointment when they had their medical exam. That's a 6-month validity, right?
And does the exam need to take place before or after the interview?
Well, ideally, we want the exam to take place 2 weeks before the interview. That way, we'll have the medical results in at the time of the interview, so we can make a quick determination. Unlike with other immigrant visa applicants, though, they don't necessarily have to be current on all the vaccinations. They can complete any vaccines once they're in the United States, but they must do so before they naturalize.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Michelle, what are some frequent hiccups that you see when people apply for a K-1 visa? Missing documents, lack of awareness about certain steps, so that we can educate the public and ensure people can come prepared for their interview.
Right. I would say what often happens is that people don't necessarily bring the documents that we require for the interview. So to marry a U.S. citizen, you yourself have to currently be unmarried. So if you're separated from someone, you're not divorced and you're not able to marry at that time. We also see sometimes that people bring photocopies of documents that are issued here in Jamaica. We cannot accept photocopies of Jamaican documents. We need to see the original documents. We do verify the documents for authenticity. So we do need to see those documents. And also, I would say sometimes people forget that anyone 16 and older needs to bring a police certificate indicating that they have not committed crimes in Jamaica or whatever country they've been residing in.
And so a police certificate, not just from Jamaica, if a person has lived in other countries, is that correct?
If they've lived in another country for 6 months or more, they're going to need to bring a police certificate.
Okay. Are JPs accepted by the immigrant visa unit?
JPs?
Yes. So frequently, folks here on island go to get documents notarized. When JP notarizes a document, is it accepted by the immigrant visa unit?
A justice of the peace?
Justice of the peace, I'm sorry.
That's a great question. I mean, typically we find that the documents we accept documents from courthouses, we accept documents from the Registered General Directorate of Jamaica, we accept documents from the Jamaica Constabulary Force, and documents from the parishes themselves.
Thank you. And I think the point we really want people to come away with is if you lost the original document, you do need to go to the original issuing agency to get a equivalent to an original document. You can't have a JP signed photocopy of a birth certificate, for example, as a replacement for an original birth certificate when you come in for your interview. So please make sure that you have that ready, because it can impact the time that it takes for you to travel to the U.S. The more prepared you come for the interview, the quicker you can reunite with your loved one inside the United States. The medical exam, between appointment and being able to actually go, do you know roughly what the wait time is to get a medical exam currently?
I'm not sure. The medical exams are done by the panel physician at Andrews Memorial Hospital, and I think we provided the link for that. So I'm not sure what the current wait time is. I know that they really have reduced their wait times, and so now, especially if you're scheduling that appointment in advance of your immigrant visa interview or your K-1 visa interview, we typically will get those results. I would say about half the time we get them in advance of the interview.
Oh, that's excellent. For those looking to see what the process is or what the wait time might be, you can check out the link amhosp.org/US medical, and that's the Andrews Memorial Hospital here in Kingston. So please go directly to them to schedule the medical exam. David, I wanted to turn to you and ask about a common situation that we face here in Kingston. What if someone is engaged but wants to travel to the U.S. for tourism? What is the visa class that they should apply under, and what considerations should they have?
Sure, thanks for the question. The travel for tourism, generally to visit friends and family, is always going to be in the B1, B2 visa classification. Someone who is engaged to a U.S. citizen can certainly apply for that visa. If they're concurrently applying for the K1 visa, that's less common, but understand that some engagements last longer than others, right? No two applicants are the same, no two applications are the same, and no two engagements are the same. And so let's say you're engaged to a U.S. citizen, but the wedding plans are years down the road. No one expects you to stay apart from your fiance for that long. It's common for a U.S. citizen to come down and visit you here. You can also apply for a tourist visa to go up and visit your U.S. citizen fiance there. Now, it's no guarantee of issuance of that visa because that's when we come back to the basic qualifications for a tourist visa. The most common grounds of ineligibility for a tourist visa are 214B, and that's the legal presumption under U.S. immigration law that everyone applying for a non-immigrant visa is presumed to be an immigrant until they satisfy a consular officer that they're qualified for that visa class. That's demonstrated by your strong ties to your home country and something that's going to compel you to come back to Jamaica at the end of your temporary stay in the U.S. If you're engaged to a U.S. citizen and you clearly have plans to be with that person for the rest of your life and to go to the U.S. in all likelihood and live there, if that's your plan for the long term and you're making a short-term plan to be a visitor there, you need to pretty clearly explain that to a consular officer so we can sort out what exactly your intention is. You may qualify for a tourist visa. You may be found that, well, that person's going to go live in the U.S. and then you wouldn't qualify. But like I say, no two applications are the same, and your experience may vary, but you can certainly apply for a tourist visa to go visit your fiance.
Thank you very much.
Can I just add to that? And so just a reminder that the petition for the K1 fiance, that is valid for 4 months. So in general, people, if they are going forward with the K1 fiance application, they need to do that fairly expeditiously.
Okay. And let's say that the 4 months terminates. Do they need to apply for a new petition again in that case?
Yes. Yes, they would have to get the petition renewed or reapply.
Okay.
A consular officer can revalidate the petition under certain circumstances, I think, though, right?
I think that's right.
Yeah.
And when someone is applying for the K1 visa, what kind of documents should they bring to prove that they have a relationship with the petitioning individual?
Right. So they're going to want to bring photographs of their time together. They're going to want to bring sort of any WhatsApp conversations or email chats or text messages. Photographs are good, or I already mentioned that, but also any travel itineraries, either by one of the two or by both. And if they've had a child together, we do want to see that birth certificate.
Gotcha. Do you know when they bring that in, can they just email it in, or do they need to bring original copies of those documents?
Okay, so they're going to want to bring physical copies of those documents. So we can't accept like a photograph, right? It doesn't need to be an original document, but we can accept photographs. We can accept photocopies of travel itineraries, that kind of thing. But I think it's important to note that applicants cannot bring their cell phones with them to the interview. So they do need to have hard copy physical documents with them when they come to the visa interview.
Yeah, and remember that I know it's frequently slips our mind in this digital age. We have all our family photos, we have all of our airplane tickets on email on our phones, but unfortunately visitors to the U.S. Embassy coming in for consular appointments can't bring devices in. So take the time, print out those photos, print out those travel itineraries, bring them in a neat folder or binder when you come for your interview so that things are organized and you're prepared to show them to the interviewing consular officer. We're roughly at our delayed halfway point right now, so we're going to transition into the Q&A part of today's session. So audience members, if you're following us on Instagram, X, formerly known as Twitter, or YouTube, feel free to submit questions now, and we will address them as they come in. So the first question that we have right now is from Mauricia on Facebook, who wants to know how long it takes for a U.S. citizen to file for their spouse.
How long does it take for a U.S. citizen to file for their spouse? Well, once they, I don't, how long before USCIS approves the petition? Is that the question?
I think that Mauricia probably wants to know between the time husband has the desire for a wife to join them and the wife actually joining them in the U.S., roughly how long does that take?
So I'm not really aware of USCIS wait times for petitions to be approved, but I will tell you that once we get the case here at the U.S. Embassy in Jamaica, there is not a wait time. There is not a backlog, and you will contact us to schedule your appointment, and we will schedule that appointment. You'll schedule the appointment online. We'll go ahead and bring you in, and then, like I said, we will interview promptly.
Okay. And Mauricia, just want to remind you that you can visit that www.uscis.gov link at the bottom of this video, which will provide you with more information about the petition process. For folks listening, just to be aware, while we do work hand in hand with the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service, we are different agencies. And so the petition process is separate from the actual visa process, although both are required to ultimately immigrate into the United States. The next question that we have comes from Sheila on Facebook, who wants to know what the timeline is for a K-1 visa application once the petition is approved.
Once the petition is approved, then so once the petition is approved, then USCIS Citizen and Immigration Services sends the application to NBC. They will then send the case to the embassy, and they will send you a letter that they have sent the case to the embassy. At that point, you're going to be a part of the process, and you're going to be the one submitting the application, which is called a DS-160. And that is, you're going to do that on what we call the SEAC website. That's Consular Electronic Application Center website, and you're going to pay the fee. And then at that point, again, it's still a little bit on you because you're going to be scheduling your visa interview. You're going to be scheduling your medical appointment. Ideally, schedule the medical appointment first. You're going to go on Andrew's website and do that. And then you're going to schedule the visa interview with what we call the Document Service Center here. And again, I think we have that link for you. And then you're going to show up for your appointment. You're going to have that visa interview, and you're going to go to your medical, get that medical done. And then you're going to have the interview. We'll make a decision. And then you must travel within 6 months of the completion of the medical.
Okay. Perfect. The next question we have is from Kayana on X, who wants to know if her children are required to travel with her if she's going up on an immigrant visa.
So again, children can join you if they are under 21, okay, and they should be listed on that petition to begin with, okay? Are the children required to travel at the same time?
Yes, I think that's the question.
Right, so they're going to be accompanying the applicant.
Kiana, the question you need to pose for yourself is, do you plan to immigrate to the United States with your children? If there's another parent here in Jamaica who, together with that parent, you decide the children should remain resident with in Jamaica, certainly that choice can be made. But if your ultimate desire is for those children to immigrate with you to the United States, then as Michelle mentioned, the timeline to do so is the same as it is for you. Should your plans change in the future, it will be much harder to adjust your children's residency status after the fact than when you are applying for the petition and visa now.
Also to that question, I think it's important to note, I believe K visas are single entry visas.
Yes.
And so you have one chance to use that visa, whereas a lot of non-immigrant visas are multiple entry visas that people are used to using for tourism and going back and forth. When you have the K-1 visa and you have to travel within that 6 months, you get to enter the U.S. one time on that visa. So that's why it's incumbent upon the family to travel together to use that one entry appropriately.
That's a very good point, David, and thanks for mentioning that. The next question we have is from Shanika on Facebook, who wants to know if she did her medical exam 3 years ago and still hasn't heard back from the embassy, what should she do?
Well, she did her medical exam 3 years ago. So first of all, her medical is not current. So the medical has to be done, I think, within a year, or it has a 6-month expiration date. All medicals have the 6 month or shorter, depending on what type of exam they got. So, she should have heard back from the embassy, that at some point had been told that she needed to complete the medical. It is on the applicant to follow up before the medical expires if they haven't heard back from the embassy.
Shanika, take a look and see what contact information you provided when you started your visa application process. Check to see if that's still a valid email address. Take a look in your junk email box or anywhere else that a email could have gone, and go on jm.usembassy.gov. Go to the immigrant visa section of the website and use the Immigrant Visa Navigator self-service tool to find the correct information for your given situation. But as my colleague just mentioned, you will need to redo the medical exam, and further guidance will be available online on how to proceed in your current situation. So we also have
Sorry, can I just add on that? Also, she's going to need to check the validity of her petition as well. All right, because again, the petition is valid for 4 months after it's approved by USCIS.
Right. So 3 years on, most likely that petition is also no longer valid. We have Brand Jeffrey on Facebook who wants to know who to contact if they're having issues completing the online application. And I'll take the answer for this one. Brand Jeffrey, it's not clear which online application you're referring to. If it's a non-immigrant visa, then you would need to go to the non-immigrant visa self-service navigator tool on jm.usembassy.gov. If it's an immigrant visa, you'll need to likewise go to the immigrant visa self-service navigator tool. And by selecting the correct option of the issue that you're facing, you'll likely be able to send an email to the relevant party in the consular section at the U.S. Embassy here in Kingston, and we'll do our best to assist or troubleshoot any issues you have. If it seems to be something related to the actual website, try to log on to do the application on a different computer, and it could be some compatibility issues, okay? Then the next question we have is Alicia from Facebook saying that her daughter is filing for her and wants to know if her 9-year-old son can be added to the petition.
Okay, so her daughter is filing for her as an IR5 immigrant visa.
It is not clear, but we can make the assumption right now that it is, and we'll clarify.
And so she wants to add her child.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Okay. So So again, that's something that would be a question for you as CIS about adding someone to the petition.
Okay. And Alicia,
I was going to say that for an IR5, the parent of a U.S. citizen, there's no derivative for that. So an IR5 wouldn't be able to add on a child. So if your U.S. citizen child is filing for you as an IR5, then it's their sibling or half sibling who would be your child here in Jamaica wouldn't have any sort of entitlement to be on that petition.
Okay.
Right. They may want to look at another visa class.
Right.
So Alicia, you can also learn more by visiting the U.S. Citizen and Immigration Service website, which is at the bottom of our stream right now. You can also learn more about immigrant visa classes in general by visiting travel.state.gov. Right now, we have one other question coming in from Bob on YouTube. And he's asking what the wait time is for a sibling of a U.S. citizen to get an immigrant visa appointment.
Okay, so a sibling who's trying to immigrate to the United States, that's under the F4 category. There's a family preference category 4. And so they're going to want to be looking at the visa bulletins to find out, what their priority date is and what when the petition was approved, what their filing date is, and they need to be monitoring the visa bulletin. The wait times vary country by country, and then visa class by visa class. So he would really need to consult the visa bulletin, which we publish monthly.
Yeah, and that's on travel.state.gov. The F4 family preference category for siblings of U.S. citizens is the lowest priority of the family preference categories. And that just means it's going to be a much longer wait for that petition to be approved than it would be for a spouse of a U.S. citizen, which is the first priority, or the child of a U.S. citizen. And I think it can be over 10 years for this sibling of a U.S. citizen.
Thank you. Michelle, I know that you addressed this earlier in the interview, but just so that we can answer our audience's questions, Sandy on Facebook is asking, after being approved for an immigrant visa, do you have to leave within 6 months of the medical exam or the date stamp at the interview in your passport?
The date stamp of the interview, you mean the 6 months expiration date is on the visa, okay, and it is 6 months from the date your medical was concluded. So it's one date.
Okay, all right. And Alicia, I see that you're asking on Facebook if you can apply for a visitor visa before your daughter files for an immigrant visa for you. And I'll direct that question to my colleague, Dave.
Yeah, you can apply for a tourist visa at any time. Obviously, if there's a filing for you in progress for an immigrant visa, or if you have immigrant intent at some future point, you want to be honest about that in your interview. If you have U.S. citizen relatives who are filing for you, it's important to disclose all that in your application because you may still very well have a current non-immigrant intent, purpose of travel, where you're going to go to the U.S. for a month to visit that family member, and then a year or two later go live there. Totally understandable, and you may qualify for it. It's important just to disclose all that, just so the consular officer doesn't come upon it by chance and then question you on something that you omitted from the application.
Thank you. Beverly, I see that you're asking how long it takes for a spouse to file for their spouse to join them in the U.S. We don't talk about specific cases, so I see that you mentioned a specific timeline with your case. We don't discuss individual cases during this event, but I do recommend that you listen to an earlier part of this interview where we discuss the general timelines. But you can also visit travel.state.gov to view the visa bulletin to see what the filing dates are, as well as additional information found on jm.usembassy.gov under the immigrant visa section of our embassy's website. We are coming up on about 2 minutes left in this session. So we're going to take about 1 or 2 additional questions. We have Davina on Facebook asking if a green card holder can file for a spouse immigrant visa.
Yes, they can. So there's a special category just for those people to apply. They can apply for their spouses. They can apply for their children as well.
Okay, that's excellent. So Davina, you can find that information, as I mentioned, on the U.S. Embassy's website, which can be found at the bottom of this video. We have now reached the end of our session. Before we conclude, I'll just remind those who are joining later, if you are a U.S. citizen or have family or friends that are U.S. citizens, we are in the middle of hurricane season currently. So please remember that when you're traveling in the region, to register in STEP, which is the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program, by visiting step.state.gov. You can also visit travel.state.gov for general travel information. And we look forward to speaking to all of you approximately 1 month from now on September 18th at 1 p.m. The topic of that conversation will be fraud prevention, how to report visa misuse, how to report lost and stolen visas, and any other fraud-related issues when applying for a visa with the U.S. Embassy. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Dave. It's been a huge pleasure. And we hope to join you again about 1 month from now. Thank you and have a good rest.